two kinds of receivers. There's receivers who take on operating businesses and run them, similar to a trustee in bankruptcy. And there's receivers who are assigned control over the assets of judgment debtors for the purpose of liquidating the assets and collecting the judgment. We do both here. My NAFR membership is a result, and by the way, you have federal court receivers and state court receivers. My NAFR membership is a result of federal court receivers who are running operating businesses that were under investigation, if you will, by different federal agencies. Basically, our key background in receiverships comes from my bankruptcy experience. I got involved in bankruptcies in the 80s, back when we had the oil and financial industry collapse and real estate collapse here in Texas. And you wanted to work in my business, I had to work. I started doing bankruptcy work, working for trustees. When I left in '93, and I had to continue doing bankruptcy work up until then, I got my first bankruptcy Chapter 11 trusteeship, which was as I remember, it was a large privately owned water utility, which I ran and cleaned up, got it operating, got it profitable, and ultimately sold through the bankruptcy. Running an entity for somebody else. That really fits that's the picture of an operating receivership. It's the different, and under some kind of regulatory authority, in this case a court. And the federal equity receiver, I'm working again for a court, a federal court. I'm running an entity and understand the basic principles of it. You're not, as the receiver, what they want you to do, but you're not there to you're there as the husband to get a cash flow positive, so it's not using up resources, and basically protecting, control it, and keep the people you need there and keep them working, and pay them and take care of them until the whole legal issue gets resolved. Then what happened is a number of years later, I got involved. A client of mine, a lawyer, called me and said, "Did you ever do a state court receivership?" I said, "No, but tell me about it." I'd known about it because my first bankruptcy case back in '93, the state court had appointed a receiver over that bankruptcy case, over the company. The principals put it in bankruptcy to get rid of the receiver because the receiver's out when the bankruptcy filed. And they got me instead, they were probably better off with Jim than they were with me because I'm the one who kicked them out of the building and took over control of the operation and ultimately sold it. I had some knowledge of state court receiverships, and Bill asked me if I would take on this case, help him with it, and we did it. And it was a judgment debtor case. Typically, somebody who almost invariably they do something really stupid, and then they compound it by being more stupid, and end up getting a judgment against them. And then they don't pay the judgment, and that becomes the ultimate stupidity, because then they get a receiver, and the receiver triples the amount that they're going to pay. The day you put a receiver in place, the judgment debtor's liability has gone up to 3 times what it was the moment before. And that goes into asset collection. Well, we're pretty good at digging out where stuff is at and being pretty imaginative. In the first case, the one that Bill came to me on, we ended up suing the judgment debtor's lawyers because we think that they had some problems in their representation of him, and there was a claim there, and I owned his assets, I owned his claim. So we sued the lawyers, and ultimately we got the case settled probably about a year later. That's an okay return. It was as much as we could get. There wasn't going to be more out of it. But you have to be imaginative, and by that point we'd gotten pretty imaginative.